Let's see a truly beautiful mind, and whose truly beautiful mind it is. Is this mind truly a beautiful one? Yes, we will see about that mind, because that mind is the most superb mind and the most superb name and the most famous name in the world of intelligentsia. And what is that name? That name is Albert Einstein. Albert Einstein was born on March 14, 1879 in the German city of Ulm. He had no signs of greatness. His mother thought that he was a freak and his head seemed too large. This is what his mother is thinking, that his head is too large, and he was, considered very a normal kind of a person by his parents also. Also, his head teacher thought that he could be doing nothing in his career. He would make no career, no future, nothing. This was the opinion kept by Albert Einstein's head teacher. But you see, what people predict about us, generally it does not become truth. If you have willpower, if you have commitment, if you have dedication, if you have diligence, you can prove people wrong. Here we see Albert Einstein did not have, these opinions only. He had certain physical problems also that we will see. Einstein was highly gifted in mathematics, interested in physics, decided to study at university in Zurich and as a technical expert in the patent office in Bern in 1902. So that's what we see, that he dedicated his entire research, his entire working to these two subjects. What are these two subjects? Number one being the mathematics subject and other one being science subject, physics. And then we see he was developing his own ideas in secret. He was working in that, for somebody, but then at the same time he was working for himself also. He was keeping his theories, his own ideas also, and he would be calling it as a Bureau of Theoretical Physics. He would be calling it Bureau of Theoretical Physics. And in 1905, he published a paper, Special Theory of Relativity. This is very important. You must all remember. This is although related to science, but then you must remember that the theory of relativity was the one which gave Albert Einstein a lot of fame. It describes the relationship between mass and energy. Einstein was awarded a Nobel Prize for Physics in 1921. We see this year. Remember this year. It is very important. In the year 1921, Einstein was awarded with a Nobel Prize in the subject physics. Now you see this guy is receiving, physics for the subject, like typical subject like physics, he is receiving a Nobel Prize, such great honor. And then remember what were the words of his head teacher, that he would be doing nothing in his, he was a freak and he could do nothing in his career. But that's where if you stand with diligence, commitment, everything is possible for you. We can see that through the story of Albert Einstein. And then he was, when Nazis came to power in Germany in the year 1933, Einstein immigrated to United States. Einstein died at the age of 76 in the year 1955. So in the year 1955, when he was 76 years old, he died. And before, meeting his death or before just meeting his end, Albert Einstein, interestingly, had to leave his own country because of the political conditions. Nazis came there and he had gone to USA, United States. Albert Einstein was born on 14. Now we see the text here where it is stated about his birth in the German city of Ulm without any indication that he was destined for greatness. On the contrary, his mother thought Albert was a freak. This I already told you, that his mother used to be thinking him to be a freak, an unusual person with an unusual kind of a sense. To her, his head seemed too large, and that's what Albert Einstein's mother also thought, that his head was too large. At the age of 2.5, Einstein still wasn't talking. When he finally did learn to speak, he uttered everything twice. Now this is important. Albert Einstein initially was not able to speak, and when he started speaking, when he began to speak, then he began to speak in a very, abnormal manner. What is that abnormality? He was speaking everything twice. First he was not speaking, then when he started speaking, he was speaking everything like, twice. And then he uttered everything twice. Einstein did not know what to do with other children, and his playmates called him brother boring. His friends playmates would all be calling him Brother Boring. This is very interesting. His playmates had been calling him Brother Boring, and then they did not know that one day this Brother Boring will become so famous a name. In the world of physics, he received Nobel Prize in the year 1921. This I already told you. And then, so the youngster played himself much of the time by himself. He especially loved mechanical toys. And he loved, mechanical toys. Looking at his sister also when she was newborn, he said, where are her wheels? So this is interesting that, did not call his sister's leg. He said, where are wheels? This shows that he was too much inclined towards mechanical things and mechanical toys. His sister's, legs also is calling, where are her wheels? A headmaster once told him, his father, that what Einstein chose as a profession would not matter because he will never make a success at anything. This was a prophecy made by the head teacher. I already told you that the head teacher of Albert Einstein had said that he may choose any career or he may choose anything, but it will not give him any success because this boy is good for nothing. The declaration was made. The declaration was made by whom? The head teacher of Albert Einstein. Einstein began learning to play the violin at the age of 6 because his mother wanted him to. He later became a gifted amateur violinist, maintaining this skill throughout his life. And although he started off learning violin and then, at the beginning he was not so professionally well trained. Amateur means he was doing it only for his own pleasure, and then he had some association with music also. Here we see, but Albert Einstein was not a bad pupil. He went to high school in Munich, where Einstein's family had moved when he was 15 months old, and scored good marks in almost every subject. Importantly, that Albert Einstein was not that bad a pupil also. He scored good, satisfactory marks, and not only satisfactory, good marks. Einstein hated the school's regimentation and often clashed with his teachers. At the age of 15, Einstein felt so stifled there that he left the school for good. And Einstein was not happy with his school because there was some strictness or some other reasons because of which Einstein had to leave his school at the age of 15. The previous year, Albert Einstein's parents had moved to Milan and left their son with relatives. After prolonged discussion, Einstein got his wish to continue his education in German-speaking Switzerland, in a city which was more liberal than Munich. So he had gone to this particular place. So it's a better place to his temperament. He had left that place, Munich, and then he had gone to the other city. Einstein was highly gifted in mathematics and interested in physics. This I already told you in the beginning that Einstein's major two favorite subjects were what? These two subjects were physics and mathematics. After finishing his schooling also, he decided to study at the university in Zurich. But science was not the only thing that appealed to the dashing young man with the walrus moustaches. Walrus are typical moustaches with the lifted up hair. An animal. So he comparison made here with the moustaches of that animal with the moustaches of Albert Einstein. He also felt a special interest in fellow student Mileva Marek, whom he found to be clever creature. Mentioning of one of the friends, this young Serb belonging from Serbia had come to Switzerland because the university in Zurich was one of the few in Europe where women could get degrees. So this girl had been a classmate of Albert Einstein, and he's happy that because they both had the similar temperament and they had the similar nature. Einstein saw in her an ally against the Philistines. The other people he's calling, he was not happy with other people, Philistines people. And he's saying that, almost the text says that he was always at odds with these people. At odds means not adjusting well, not getting along very well. Normally, that is called as at odds. Those people in his family and at the university with whom he was constantly at odds. And then the couple fell in love. Now this is again very interesting phase. They fell in love. Letters survive in which they put their affection into words, mixing science with tenderness. So both of them, although are from science stream, but then they had a human beating heart and they fell in love. And then their letters, we can see that there was a mixture of science as well as tenderness, emotions. Tenderness basically refers to emotions which they poured towards each other in form of the letters which they sent. Einstein once wrote, "How happy and proud I shall be when we both have brought our work on relativity to a victorious conclusion." And then here also we see that Einstein is talking about his aim to his, this girl, that I would be so happy if we both would put together our efforts and we reach a victorious conclusion on this topic, on the theory of relativity. This I already told you, we must remember theory of relativity. In 1900, at the age of 21, Albert Einstein was a university graduate and employed. He worked as a teaching assistant, gave private lessons. So he started off as a teaching assistant, and he also gave private lessons, and finally secured a job in 1902. So in this year, particularly 1902, was the year when he got his job as a technical expert in the patent office, in Bern, while he was supposed to be assessing with other people's inventions. So he was assessing other people's invention, and that job he got. Einstein was actually developing his own ideas in secret. He is said to have jokingly called his desk drawer at work the Bureau of Theoretical Physics. So this I already told you in the beginning. Einstein was working there, but he was also working for himself. He would somewhere be jotting down his points and his own research, and would be keeping aside. And that particular, that drawer where he would be keeping all his papers and research work, which he would be doing for himself, he would be calling that as a Bureau of Theoretical Physics. That's interesting. All of you must make a note of this particular term, this particular phrase, Bureau of Theoretical Physics. The term was given by himself, by Albert Einstein himself, and he's talking about his ideas in secret, which he did. Jokingly, it was said though. One of the famous papers of 1905 was Einstein's special theory of relativity. Again comes the theory of relativity, according to which time and distance are not absolute, the science term. And then, indeed, two perfectly accurate clocks will not continue to show the same time if they come together again after a journey, if one of them has been moving very fast relative to others. So this is the science concept which Albert Einstein had given. Even then, two clocks, if they are, away, and then once they are brought together after little distance, so they would not be showing the similar time. From this followed the world's most famous formula, which describes the relationship between mass and energy, and there is this formula also mentioned, E is equal to this thing. And then, while Einstein was solving the most difficult problems in physics, his private life was unraveling. It was getting affected. And then Albert had wanted to marry Mileva right after finishing his studies. He wanted to, just get married to this girl. There was some private life, his personal life also, we can see, although he's working on the theory of relativity. But then he had this desire also to very quickly get, after completing his research work and all that, he should get married to this girl. But his mother was against it. And why was the mother against? The mother was naturally against because this girl was 3 years older in age, and she did not want to bring that girl, accept this girl as a member of the family, as the daughter-in-law. She was also bothered by Mileva's intelligence. And first thing I told you, that she thought Mileva was 3 years older, and number two, she was also equally intelligent. So she thought that they would not, the mother of Albert Einstein thought that they would not be a perfect couple. Why would they not be a perfect couple? Because they both have the similar pursuit, similar intelligence. So, they would all be busy with their research work and all that. So that's why Einstein put the wedding off. Put the wedding off means postponed it for some time. And then what happened? The pair finally married in January 1903. January 1903, you must remember. And then they had 2 sons also. But a few years later, the marriage faltered. The marriage did not become a success. It faltered. And Mileva, meanwhile, was losing her intellectual ambition and becoming an unhappy housewife. Mileva was somewhere not happy, and then the relation ended up with a divorce. After years of constant fighting, the couple finally divorced in 1919. Einstein married his cousin Elsa the same year, and after getting divorced from his wife, Albert Einstein married his own cousin, and the name is Elsa. Einstein's new personal chapter coincided with his rise towards fame. In 1915, he had published his general theory of relativity, which provided a new interpretation of gravity. And we all know, in layman language, we know Albert Einstein for his invention or for this topic, gravity. So this is all related to that theory of relativity. An eclipse of the sun in 1919 brought proof that it was accurate, and later on the world also acknowledged that whatever theory Albert Einstein was giving rather, it was practically proved also. Einstein had correctly calculated in advance the extent to which the light from fixed stars would be deflected through the sun's gravitational field. Sun's gravitational fields affect, the star's movement also. This is what Albert Einstein gave as a theory, and then this was accepted by the world also. The newspaper proclaimed his work as a scientific revolution. It was a scientific revolution called by the top stories of the then newspaper. Einstein received the Nobel Prize for Physics in the year 1921. He was showered with honors and invitations, and he was lauded all around, by press, and he was, lauded means he was getting appreciation nicely in big amount. When the Nazis came to power in Germany in 1933, Einstein emigrated to the United States. This I already told you, there was some political unrest in his own country. That is why later on Albert Einstein had to go to United States. 5 years later, the discovery of nuclear fission in Berlin had American physicists in an uproar, and wherever he goes, he brings laurels, and he brings, a lot of light, he spreads a lot of knowledge. As soon as he went there to America, this research, discovery of nuclear fission, again brought him a great fame. Berlin had American physicists in an uproar. Uproar means a lot of appreciation was there. Many of them had fled from fascism just as Einstein had, and now they were afraid that Nazis could build and use an atomic bomb. So this is all happening, this was happening there, that they were afraid. Scientists were actually very scared that what will happen if Nazis will misuse the science, technology, and they will develop a nuclear bomb. At the urging of a colleague, Einstein wrote a letter to American President Franklin D. Roosevelt. So he was one of the famous scientists, not only his knowledge wise, but also, his look at his conscience. He thought that he should write a letter to the President of America, that time President, the then President Franklin D. Roosevelt, on 2nd August 1939, in which he warned a single bomb of this type exploded in a port might very well destroy the whole port together with some of the surrounding territory. These are the exact lines taken from the letter which he wrote to the President Roosevelt, that he warned the President Roosevelt, if this bomb continues, if this bomb is there, it will destroy everything. So you see, Abdul Kalam had an urge and passion and sensibility, and he had everything for humanity, not only intelligence. It was just the brain as well as the heart. Both were equally, active and nicely. God had gifted him these two things. His words did not fail to have an effect. The Americans developed the atomic bomb in secret project of their own and dropped in on the Japanese cities of Hiroshima and Nagasaki in August 1945. And it was very unfortunate episode, as we will see later in time to come, that Einstein was totally unhappy with this decision that a country was bombarded by USA. Einstein was deeply shaken by the extent of the destruction. This time he wrote a public missive to the United Nations. In it, he proposed the formation of a world government. So Einstein did not sit quiet. He was so upset by these two bomb droppings at Hiroshima and Nagasaki. If American president did not listen to him, he approached the United Nations, the uniformal body which sees into the conflicts of different nations, and he demanded a universal government, world government. Unlike the letter to Roosevelt, this one made no impact, and then there was no impact of it. But over the next decade, Einstein got even more involved in politics. He got even more involved in politics, agitating for an end to the arm building up and using his popularity to campaign for peace and democracy. And Einstein was using his popularity, and he was only calling for these two terms. Politically, he was only believing in the solidarity of peace and democracy. No dictatorship, or no country should take any undue advantage of other country or other nation. That's what he believed. And then when Einstein died in 1955 at the age of 76, he was celebrated as a visionary and world citizen as much as a scientific genius. So what can be the greater honor than this, that Einstein was considered as a world citizen. He did not stay for the benefit or for the welfare of one single country. His aim and his objective was to look for the good of entire humanity. With this, now we are coming at the conclusion of this great story of a great physicist and a living inspiration of that time, and now also is a living inspiration in our hearts, Albert Einstein. Thank you so much.